Creation versus Evolution, Topic 17, Considering the Odds. Secular scientists are now admitting that the chances of evolution being true are astronomical, and many of them are admitting that it is impossible. You see, it was a lot easier to believe in Darwin's theory of evolution before our modern era and before scientists learned as much as they now know about the cell. The more scientists learn about the complexity of the cell, the more they realize how ludicrous it is to believe that everything came about accidentally and by chance. Consider the following from Patterson's book, Evolution Exposed. In 1860, a debate between Thomas Huxley and Bishop Samuel Wilberforce turned the public tide in the acceptance of evolution. Bishop Wilberforce had published a review of Darwin's book, of which Darwin commented, "It is uncommonly clever. It picks out with skill all the most conjectural parts and brings forward well all the difficulties." Bishop Wilberforce presented several scientific arguments, and Huxley suggested that, given enough time and material, 6 monkeys could type the 23rd Psalm simply by randomly punching keys. It is reported that Bishop had no response despite his training in mathematics. So, what is the answer to Huxley's argument of time and chance? If you give an ape a 50-key typewriter with letters, numbers, and punctuations, the chance of that ape typing the word "the," only 3 letters, THE, is 1 in 50 times 50 times 50, or 1 in 125,000. At a rate of 1 strike per second, that would take 34.72 hours. The words "the Lord," the chance of the ape typing just those 2 words, "the Lord," would be 50 to the 8th power and would require 1,238,663.7 years for that ape to just type those 2 words, "the Lord." The entire Psalms would require 9.552 times 10 to the 1,016th power of years to complete on average. The age of the universe given by evolutionists is supposedly only 15 billion years. And that probability of the ape typing the entire 23rd Psalm is way outside the evolutionists' realm of possibility. When considering the probability of the assembly of a DNA molecule, the same problems arise. Harold J. Morowitz, who is a professor of biophysics at Yale, has calculated that the probability of the formation of 1 E. coli bacteria in the universe is at 10 to the power of 100 billion. Sir Fred Hoyle offered the analogy of a tornado passing through a junkyard and assembling a Boeing 747, or nonsense of the highest order, in his own words. Remember the law of biogenesis? Life only comes from life. Natural selection cannot be the mechanism that caused life to form from matter, as it can only work on a complete living organism. Hoyle also gave the analogy of life coming from non-life as being equivalent to 50 billion blind men solving the Rubik's Cube at the exact same moment. As the philosophical materialist Crick concluded, an honest man, armed with all the knowledge available to us today, could only state that in some sense the origin of life appears at the moment to be almost a miracle. So many are the conditions that would have had to have been satisfied to get things going. It is interesting to note that the more impossible Darwin's theory becomes, the more time evolutionists tack onto the age of the earth. As the well-known evolutionary spokesperson George Wald stated, time is in fact the hero of the plot. Given so much time, the impossible becomes possible, the possible probable, and the probable virtually certain. One only has to wait. Time itself performs miracles. Time, then, is presented as the hero of the plot. Yet in reality, time is not the hero of the plot. It is actually the villain. According to the most recent evolutionary timetable, the Big Bang Theory, the Big Bang occurred about 10 to 20 billion years ago. Our solar system formed 5 billion years ago. Single-celled organisms came into existence from nothing 3 to 4 billion years ago. Multi-celled organisms developed approximately 1 billion years ago. Humankind appeared on the scene 1 to 3 million years ago, and modern civilization arrived 5 to 10,000 years ago. It's easy to see the problem here. Evolution would have to allow 100,000 trillion, 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 trillion years just for one short functional protein to randomly form. That's a 10 with 125 zeros following it, and it's far beyond evolutionists' time frame of 3 to 4 billion years for the single-celled organism to form. And that's only one protein molecule. A minimally complex cell would need between 300 and 500 protein molecules. Thank you for joining with me today.